coming from South, from all over,
Mm-hmm.
having friendships and missed friendships
Mm-hmm.
with white children when they were younger.
The boys could do that?
The boys did it.
Oh, they had friendships?
Yeah.
And they traveled further than...
But once they got old enough
Mm-hmm.
to, say, be a father, a mother, that's when the friendships were cut off. And that's when they really started to fight each other. You know, there are, because some of the things, some of my adult male friends have said to me, I'm thinking, well, how come you were there? And how come they could call you that?
Call you what?
Call them you darky, you blackie. And I'm thinking, your mom and dad didn't call you that, did they? But then some of the mom and dad did. That part, but in saying that and beginning to conceptualize that, okay, you really learn what your parents mislearned because of persons wanting to make you less than what you are. When you think about the construction of the United States of America in both its capitals, in each, the capital in DC, the capitals in all these other little areas as they became parts of the Union, and the bitterness, the meanness that had been passed on to other people against you because of what they saw as competition for money,
Right.
as competition for survival. And these words called entitlement, called what is the word? The two words that they use for
White supremacy.
Supremacy. When you have to use those names historically, and then the people, the victims, as you supposed to be saying, continue to allow those names to be used. When the so-called victims continue to call each other the N-word, and then get mad when other people use the N-word, when the word came from a type of behavior, niggardly behavior, and you have accepted that to be you. When I look at my birth certificate, my mother's death certificate, my daddy's death certificate, and their birth certificates too. Look at my own birth certificate. Look at my children's birth certificate, my grandchildren's birth, and we have come from Negroes to the gender parts of Negroes to colored, from colored to black, from black to African American. And when you look at these legal documents, you think, well, what in the world are we? No, if you had to rely on them for your identification. When you begin to really think about all of these things that people have used to so-called control the behavior of other people because of their unwillingness to assume responsibility for the work that they need to do, for the development of what's going to be in the best interest of society, rules for society, for starting out with that hierarchy of needs that Maslow developed, all right, we all require the same things in order to become what folks say the optimum creature. Well, if you can't work that out in all these years, how you gonna work anything out? And I always pray, Lord, don't let me run into a fool today.
Right. Like you did the other day with the Rotary.
Please don't let me run into a fool today.
So when you were a kid, did you have to be inside by the street lights?
Yeah. Well, if I was going to be in Pittsburgh, I had to be home by the time the street light came, or else I got punished. And the punishment was either being made to stay in my room, sit on the porch without going out on 3 little steps, mopping the bathroom, and not. I have to love Daddy though, because Daddy, whatever Mama made the punishment to be, you could talk to him for days. Darsh used to try to do that more than most of us though, but he never would. Whatever Mama said, and that was good. But he was mature enough to know how to do that. You know, not let the children go to him to get
a different answer.
Mm-hmm.
But he would back her up.
Whatever she said. And he eventually told her, don't come and tell me what your mama said. And that was Mama said, the older mama, that he don't come and tell me what your mama said, because whatever your mama said, that's what you got to do.
Mama Moosey would say her name.
Carrie Young. Okay.
Mama Moosey, who is technically
my great grandmother.
Thank you.
My maternal great grandmother.
And great grandfather would always say, don't tell me what she said.
But because he was the head of the household, male, and she was the head of the household, mama, female.
Mama Moosey, Mama Chuck, and y'all called Mama Agnes.
We called her Agnes.
You called her by her first name.
We called her Agnes until she. But we called them what they told us they wanted us to call them.
Right.
Because Mama Chuck, I know Mama Chuck said, don't call me grandmama. I'm too old. I'm too young to be a grandmama. All right. And then we got too old to be calling her Chuck. Okay? And then that's when she said, well, can't you call me? Just call me Granny. Then she said, no, don't call me Granny. But don't call me Chuck. Call me Mama Chuck. You know, wherever your developmental self is, that's how things get to be within your family.
True.
But anyhow,
tell me about Savannah and some of the unless you were going to say something else, but and some of the experiences and
going to Savannah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Savannah is in South Georgia, near the Savannah River.
Mm-hmm.
Mama Chuck, my mother Agnes's mother.
Yes, your mother Agnes's mother.
And my grandfather Mitchell Nesbitt's first wife.
Yeah.
Chuck. But anyway, and that's not all the story. However, but Mama Chuck, who nursed mostly in the beginning,
who was one of the first registered nurses,
among the first registered nurses in Georgia and parts of Florida. She worked in Savannah in Georgia Baptist Hospital for many of her latter nursing days.
Now, was she birthing babies? Was she dealing with?
She was general medical. She was a nurse, a trained nurse.
Do you remember her ever complaining about being a nurse? Do you think she liked it?
No, she was, number one, she was strong. Her physical self was strong. And she became more strong. She became stronger in her spiritual self as she aged. She was an intelligent woman, an emotional woman, physical. But in her physical strength, I knew I could always rely on her, no matter. But I knew when she got to drinking, and well, if she was mad with something or somebody, and she got to drinking, I knew to stay away from her,
okay.
Because she would say, and she would try to control you physically if she could, if you wouldn't stay there and listen to. But anyway, but she was a loving person.
She was loving.
And she always wanted the best for you, although she misunderstood a lot of things based on her own life and how she had been misused in a lot of situations.
Like what you mean?
With people in the community, and may have been with her own family. I never, but something happened to her.
You're just saying you think something happened to her?
Something had to happen to her because she was always too suspicious of him. But anyway, to me.
Yeah. She was always suspicious of people. Motives? Just people's motives or people?
Some motives, but people would do to you if you did. But anyway.
Very cautious.
Not, It was like, you're not going to do this to me because I know what this is going to be. Do to you before you do to me. No, but discerning.
Mm-hmm.
Because number one, if you just observe behaviors between males and females, and right now, if you look at this situation with Donald Trump, most of his trouble is because of misuse of his sexuality. But anyway, that's a strong emotion, but it has to be contained.
Harnessed.
Yes. But anyway, but it's also necessary for a balanced life. So you have to learn how to take care of that part of your life so it will not destroy you.
Absolutely.
Your family. Now, but anyway, Mom Chuck worked head nurse, Georgia Infirmary in Savannah.
When she was married to?
When she was married to Jack Flowers. Whose home was, his mom lived in Tybee.
Okay.
But they were among the working class black people in Tybee. Mm-hmm. But they also owned property. Mm-hmm. You hear what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. In Tybee. Mm-hmm. That folk didn't think black people owned. But anyway, Jack Flowers lived when he and Mama Chuck met, I don't really know how they met, but they bought a house at 620 West 36th Street in Savannah. And the house was huge. A really beautiful structure. They never had any children. Mama Chuck, as far as I know it, never had any children other than Mama Dear.
Mama Dear, also known as
Agnes.
Thank you, just making sure.
Mother Dear, who was Agnes Nesbitt Ellison.
Who was your mother?
My mother.
Okay, so she never had any other children, but your mother.
She never had. My mother was a single child. Of Chuck and Mitchell Nesbitt. Jack Flowers. No. Mitchell was Mama Chuck's first husband in Atlanta. Mama Chuck's dad. Mama Dear's daddy. Mama Chuck was married. Okay, Mama Chuck was married to Mitchell Nesbitt.
That is Mama Agnes.
That's Agnes's daddy.
So Jack Flowers is not
Agnes's daddy. Jack Flowers was not Agnes's daddy. Jack Flowers was Agnes's stepdaddy. One of Agnes's stepdaddies.
Mama Chuck's first husband was Jack Flowers.
Was Mitchell Nesbitt.
Oh, thank you.
Willie Mae Ivett's first husband was Mitchell Nesbitt.
And with whom she had?
With whom she had Agnes Ernestine Nesbitt.
And after that relationship ended in
Atlanta. But see, we don't really know how many. Okay, but anyhow, among the husbands of Willie Mae
yes.
Island
Yes.
Nesbitt was Jack Flowers. And Jack Flowers.
No, one of number two.
I don't know.
We don't know what number.
I don't know. Now, somebody knows. Somebody did know. However, the Jack Flowers lived in Savannah, Georgia.
And his occupation?
I don't know, but it had to be something that he made money at, either the railroad, either the Pullman Porter, somebody in the hospital. I never knew what he did, but whatever he did as a black man, he made money. Whatever his mother did, because I didn't know what his daddy did either, but whatever his mother did, who lived on Tybee, they had money too. Okay. But they loved Chuck. And Jack and I knew that by the way they treated us as grandchildren, as Mama Chuck's grandchildren. Mm-hmm. But anyhow, Mama Chuck lived at 620 West 36th Street in Savannah. Mm-hmm. And when they occupied the whole house, she and Jack, when they first got together, I guess. Well, and Jack, she nursed Jack because Jack had some kind of health problem, and Jack died. After Jack died, she rented out the lower part of that house and lived up on the top level. Well, as time went on, and her nursing career continued all over, she used that house to become a nursing home for senior citizens.
Oh, that's what you had said.
She sublet those huge rooms in that house, and okay, just take the structure. There's a picture of that house on. You have to ask Omar, because Omar pulled the current house.
One of your grandchildren.
One of my youngest grandchild.
Your youngest grandchild.
My 22-year-old.
And you have how many grandchildren?
You best count them all, because I think I included a lot of other folk who were not my birth grandchildren. But my daughter Terry had 4. Yeah. My daughter Myla had 2.
Yeah.
My son had 6.
So 6 plus 4 is 10, 12.
And then I took on 2 others, because I took on Asher and Asher,
my brother,
your brother, and I took on Emmanuel's brother.
Emmanuel's brother, right?
Mm-hmm. But because I just feel,
yes.
Anyhow,
they're yours. They are yours.
And they treat me like they think I'm their grandmother too. Okay. However, this house in Savannah, Mama Chuck sublet the living room. You walked into a very large hall, gathering place in that house. Mm-hmm. She subdivided the large living room, which had a fireplace in it, into 2 individual rooms. Then the dining room behind that, she made that 4 rooms that could contain a bed and a dresser, but 4 rooms. And there was a room in the back that became a storage room on one side and another private room on the other side, mm-hmm. into a nursing facility. And it was licensed by Chatham County, which is the county that she lived in Savannah. All right. When you came into this huge room downstairs, there were these large steps, which had mahogany banister, beautiful, that went up to the living area that she and Jack had lived in. At the top of those steps, with enough room to go toward a doorway, and the doorway could open, and it was a walk-in closet. And I mean, it could have been a bedroom.
Mm.
It had a single It had a single light in the ceiling. And if you were kind of scary, you'd be scared going up. And my great grandmother, Carrie, was scared. Okay, but we were going with this first. However, Mama Chuck, there was a kitchen up on that level, on the right hand side, as you came down the hall, and you made a right there when you got to the steps where you went into the closet. It was a hallway. And you came down that hall. At the end of that hall was a kitchen.
Mm.
And large enough space for a table and chairs, right? Behind that was another room, which would have been a living room if you wanted to. But she made it a classroom. And then she had her, well, it was a bedroom when we were there, when we would come and visit and so. But then she had her bedroom, which was off the hall, and the bathroom that was across the hall. Then she had two other rooms on the back of the house, which were used for when she had, guest rooms or whatever. But that became another part of the school for teaching licensed practical nurses.
Oh my goodness.
And she had, she had all the mummies and things that you learn part of the human body.
Oh, you mean the
dummy.
Dummies, yeah.
But she was excellent. Now, she was not in that classroom in the daytime. She was in that classroom in the early evening because she would be working at Georgia Infirmary. She worked from 7 o'clock to 3 o'clock.
And then came home and taught?
And then she came home, but she had another nurse that they cooperated, and she was her backup.
Okay.
But Lauren, she was so routinized. She was so clean. And because of her personality, people didn't mess with her.
Fiery, huh? Feisty.
But
smart.
Intelligent. And if you think about, if she had really had a partner at that time, if Jack was still alive, she would have probably made a whole lot of money and made a real name for herself in the medical nursing field. The people respected her. Yeah. People really respected Miss Flowers. That was the name of the nursing home. Flowers Nursing Home.
Wow.
But Miss Flowers was also something to be contended with. At the end of her street is a hospital. It's a Catholic hospital. Right up there at the end of her block. That the nurses used to run. The nuns used to run. Now, and you know the standards at that time with the nuns was because of the nuns' presence, that it was a top-notch hospital.
So you would go there.
We went every summer when we became teenagers. When we were in high school. Yeah.
And you went to high school?
Booker T. Washington High School. At 45 White House Drive in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay. But during the summers?
During the summers, we worked in our maternal grandmother's Willie Mae Isley Flowers, where she substituted. She had 3 or 4 other husbands after Jackie. But anyhow, Mama Chuck, we went to Savannah. And she was always helping my mom with our care. Mm-hmm. And that was the way that we could take responsibility for some of our care. Mm-hmm. Instead of going somewhere else, working for somebody else. But we never saw any money. But all our needs were met. And we knew that that was our job. Now we did.
So what you worked in the home, in Flowers home care?
We worked. We carried trays. We talked to the people.
This is so interesting.
We walked with the people up the sidewalk if they needed to go for a walk. We watched.
And these are elders, older people, not all.
These were senior people, more than 50-year-olds.
Okay.
And some of them had grand mal seizures. Now that the first time I saw that, it scared me. It scared me so, because it's a frightening thing to see a person slobbering at the mouth, writhing, his body writhing on the floor, and to hear the human body hit a wooden floor. And it is all around the rotation of the moon. It's the lunar, and their behavior, 9 times out of 10, the people who were subject to epilepsy would have a seizure if their medicine was not right. Would have a seizure as the moon came to full group during the month. We have
as the moon would become full.
Mm-hmm. And the behavior, you could really see the change in the behavior of the people. And if the medicine was not maintained properly, you knew they were going to have a grand mal seizure. But the records that she kept, and it was business the way she was so businesslike, and the individual records of the people who came and went in that nursing home. It was really, and the food.
How long would someone be there, for instance? Do you remember? How long would they stay?
It would depend on whether they had a family that could take them.
Okay.
And I do know 3 summers that we were there. The population was really steady. Okay? So, because we got to know the people who, and when somebody left, we didn't know why we were in the winter's time. We would say, well, what happened to them? And but some of those people stayed a long time. Okay. Too long. Really.
But they paid her.
The state paid her.
The state paid her.
Uh-huh. The state of Georgia and the county of Chatham. Savannah, Georgia.
So you would visit, and this one time, you must tell us about
when I was headed toward a senior in college.
High school.
Uh-huh. High school. Uh-huh. And Doris had a boyfriend that was a first-year naval student.
Oh, okay.
Over at Camp Stewart Naval Academy. Well, and I met this little fellow named Laurie. His last name was Laurie, who was a student at Beach High School in Savannah. We were in the same grade, but we were friends. Well, there was a party that was being held over in Yamacraw Village in Savannah. And Mom Chuck let us go because the little fella that was in the Naval Academy had access to a car. And she let us go to this party. I made a cute little halter top.
Because you sewed your own clothes.
Because many of the clothes that I saw in the windows of the fabulous books and
department stores, yeah.
I came home and made them.
Wow.
Well, anyway, I had this little shown outfit, and
kind of orange, right?
It was orange and a happy. It's a happy look.
A happy color.
Anyhow,
a halter top
salted top and some sauce. And we go to the party. And while we are at the party, the hostess or somebody spiked the punch.
Lord Jesus.
And that's with the liquor and the fruit juice and the ginger ale, I guess at that time, that they made this big bowl of punch. And it was delicious.
And you said what liquor was it, Grandma?
JW Jant.
Jant?
JW, initial JW Dant, D-A-N-T.
D-A-N-T.
And it was a bourbon. It was a bourbon. I never will forget it was a bourbon.
And you weren't accustomed to drinking?
No, I was not accustomed to drinking. And the punch was so good. And they had food. The punch was so good and it was so cool. And I'm just drinking and dancing and socializing. And I started feeling like I had to throw up. So Edward Laurie, who was my date, was taking me outside in the backyard, so I could just either spit or throw up. All right. Well, it got worse, and I started throwing up.
But when did you realize that the punch was spiked?
I realized that the punch was spiked when I couldn't stand up straight. I couldn't walk straight, and I couldn't stop
spitting.
But there was a name that they called it. I was drunk, and I was sick, and it was just. But I was glad that Larry took me outside because I did not throw up in those people's house. Well, my sister Doris kept her eye on me, as I understand it, and she kept seeing him go in and out with me, and she thought he was trying to have sex with me too,
Yeah.
Well, anyway, but then she realized I was sick, and so I almost called that boy's name that went to Camp Stewart. But anyway, they got me in the car. They sat me on the side behind the driver with the window down, and so I kept throwing up. We went to Madison's. It was a hamburger place that made the best hamburgers. Black owned. Mr. Madison owned Madison's. All right. Mama Chuck also knew Mr. Madison.
But why didn't y'all go straight home? Why did y'all go?
We were Mr. Madison was in between home. Okay. Was nearer to this house out there at Yamagrove Village. So that was on the way. We knew Mr. Madison, and when we got to his hamburger place, somebody got Mr. Madison to call Mama Chuck, and he reassured her that I was just vomiting, that they called it something else. Threw up drunk or something, but it happened. He said she's okay. Well, when we finally got, they gave me something to drink and something else to settle my stomach, and then we headed for 620 West 36th Street. When we got to 620 West 36th Street, Mom Chuck, who is my mother's mother, my grandmother. My mother had gone to Savannah with us that summer because she was in summer school at Savannah State. Teachers at that time had to go to summer school to maintain their teaching certificates. So when we they got me upstairs, and the in the hall was a bathroom and a beautiful one of those stand up leg, huge bathtubs. Beautiful. Well, my mom was running the water in the bathtub, and I was sitting on the commode. I mean, kneeling by the commode, still vomiting. And Mom Chuck decided she had to examine me to see if I had had sex. Well, anyhow, my mother said, "No, you're not going to examine her." She said she didn't have sex. Okay. And if I think once I get my child cleaned up, that's part of it. Once she gets cleaned up, we need to go to the hospital. We will go to the hospital. Well, Mom Chuck was not buying that. And Mom Chuck was going to proceed to do a vaginal exam of me. And my little mother got between Mama Chuck and me. I'm in the bathtub, feeling my lips, having a hard time. And she kept her mother from doing a vaginal exam on me that night. And I have never been as thankful for my own little mother. It changed my thinking about my mother because I always thought my mother was a wimp. I always thought she could start stuff, but she couldn't finish. Well,
and that's because some of the fights with your father. Just the
and
way, and the way the matriarchy
had where the matriarchy had her, and how she used tears to
manipulate.
Well, she wasn't crying that night, and her mother was much larger than she was.
Mama Chuck was much larger.
Mm-hmm. And she finally got her mother calm enough to say, "Oh, okay, all right, okay." And Doris was also in the middle of the battle too, but anyhow.
Were you angry at Mom Chuck for accusing you?
I was frightened of it at first. I was very frightened because I didn't know what was going to happen to me. And then
you had soiled your beautiful clothes.
They were awful. And to smell liquor, to smell vomitus from being drunk is awful. It's awful. But anyhow, I also messed up my nice little new shoes, little new mule shoes. But anyhow, that was when I first realized my mom is really stronger than she looks. And that she would stand up for her children, although she had been the single child. Who is that?
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody behind me?
They don't see the arm. See the arm right there? See the person on the driveway pointing?
Oh yeah.
But I don't know who they are. But that's where we saw little folk having to fight. Yeah. But anyway, but Laura, to see my little mother stand up to her mother. And we didn't stay the whole summer after that because it was just time to go home to Atlanta. And I was disappointed. I was mad with her because she didn't believe me. I was pained, really. And eventually we did have a talk about what had happened. Mm-hmm. So, it was all talked through. But it was kind of testy for a while. And even when we got back to Atlanta and having to rehash it with Mama and Dad. It was so embarrassing.
Really? Because you said you were disappointed in yourself.
Yeah. But I did, but okay, we talked about a lot though, but Dad said, that's when he first began to talk to me about, you don't drink anything that anybody brings to you to drink. That's why I've always told y'all, do not drink, either fix it yourself, you walk around with it, with your hand on the top, because you don't know what people would do. Nobody ever told us that people spiked punch. We knew nothing about that. Doris probably knew a little more about it than I did, but we never really knew what we were supposed to know about it. Anyhow.
Now, where was Jimmy Pearl throughout this? This is your baby sister.
Jimmy Pearl was still in Atlanta with me. Okay. Because she didn't go to Savannah with us until she was about, she had to be about 10 or 11 or 12 when she first met with us. Okay. Because they didn't number one, she wouldn't go too far from Mama. From Mama. She wouldn't even go to the house next door where Mama Dear lived after she and James divorced, in a house that my great granddaddy built for her. Right. She wouldn't even stay in that house with her own mother all night. If she woke up in the middle of the night, she'd start crying, and she said Mama was calling her. Mama Moose calling! But we didn't really call her Mama Moose. We called her Mama. But everybody, I mean, when we had to let other folks know who we call her Mama Moose. Right, right. And they said, "What you mean, Mama Moose? Right. What does Moose mean?" We tell. But anyhow, Moosey, Mama Moosey. But anyway, she'd hear Mama calling her
in the middle of the night.
Yeah, and Jim Pearl actually never really stayed with Mama Dear as Mama Dear's baby. The other thing about that was when I was growing up and a teenager, I had to be. Jim Pearl was 4. Okay, she was 4, so I had to be 10 or 11 when I really started to carry her on my hip everywhere. I thought that was one of the prettiest little dolls you ever saw, and I really love my sister Dara, but I really love my baby sister because I really played a different role with Carrie.
Sure. The way I feel about Benjamin. Mm-hmm. It's like, here's my baby. That's my baby.
Mm-hmm. But the time that Jimmy Pearl did come to Atlanta with us, she ate something that was hyperacidic and something she was allergic to, and she swelled up. She had to go to the hospital. You thought she was a monster. And after that, Mama Moosey wouldn't let her go. Wouldn't let her go without her to Savannah. But let me tell you about Mama Moosey.
Okay, hold play. We're going to upload and hold. Great.